So last week, Biden came out calling for various forms of gun control. Since then, numerous governors as well as state attorney generals have spoken out against his plans. So let's talk about this. But real quick, before we jump into this video, if you think that the federal government needs to keep their hands off of our firearms, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to thank a couple of the main sponsors of the channel, the first one being USCCA. Through your membership with USCCA, you get education, training, and self-defense liability protection. So if you carry a firearm, I highly recommend you look into some sort of legal protection. USCCA is what I recommend, and I'll put a link to them down in the detail section. I also want to thank Safe Life Defense for supporting the channel. Safe Life Defense provides good body armor at a great value. You can get soft body armor, some hard body armor, and they have various other things like belts as well. So if you're looking into body armor, I highly recommend Safe Life Defense. I'll put a link to them down in the detail section, and if you use the code ARMSCHOLAR, you will get 10% off of your order. So if you're not familiar, what happened last week is Joe Biden came out calling for various things. He wanted to do some gun control based on executive actions on his part, and then he called for various forms of legislation and called for Congress to do some things. Some things he intended to do through executive actions were things like renewed regulations of so-called ghost guns or 80% lowers, wanting them to be serialized and wanting them to be subject to background checks. He also targeted pistol braces and any AR or AK pistol that has it on them. He is wanting to treat them to be SBRs under the NFA and wanting them to be subject to registration and a $200 tax stamp. So those were the things that he kind of wanted to do on his own. He also did some other things like called for a model red flag law that states could use, and then he also called for new statistics on gun trafficking in the nation. I covered all this in a prior video, and you click this right there and I go more in depth on that. He also called for Congress to do some things on their end in passing the assault weapons ban, magazine ban, and also passing some pieces of legislation that are already in the Senate like HR 8 and HR 1446, which deal with background checks. Well, since Biden made that speech and outlined what he wants to do in the nation as far as gun control, various state governors and attorney generals are now speaking out against his plans. Now, why this is important is because in his speech, Biden came out and said that no one who is logical, really supports the Second Amendment and is rational pretty much is contesting what he is wanting to do. In fact, he said that everything that he plans to do is not a violation of the Second Amendment. And he even went as far as saying there is no Bill of Right and there is no amendment in the Bill of Right which is absolute, including the Second Amendment. And since Biden has come out with that speech, various state governors and state attorney generals are now speaking out against his plans and are actually representing their constituents and how they do not agree with what Biden is intending to do. And so this first one is coming from the Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge. What she stated is that as a Christian, pro-life, gun-carrying, conservative mama, you bet I'm not going to let Joe Biden take our Second Amendment rights away with just a simple stroke of the pen. She went on to state that as Attorney General, I will push back against Biden's gun control. Then you look at statements by Patrick Morrisey, the Attorney General for West Virginia. What he stated is that the Second Amendment is one of the most important priorities for West Virginia. I will not allow the far left to run roughshod over our citizen rights. If Biden follows through on his proposal, we will be in court very quickly. He then added that gun violence and the senseless death attributed to it should pain all Americans, but the evil acts of a select few should never be a catalyst for stripping the lawful masses of their constitutional rights, especially their right to self-defense and to bear arms. And then you had statements by individuals like the Attorney General for Montana, Austin Knudsen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he came and spoke out against the selection of head of the ATF by Biden being David Chipman. He said that David Chipman is Joe Biden's most extreme nominee so far. He's a fanatic gun control lobbyist, activist who wants to tax and register all semi-autos. Chipman is not fit to be ATF director, and his nomination alone is an attack on law-abiding gun owners. And so those are some varying statements by state attorney generals, but then we even had some state governors come out and speak out against what Biden is planning to do as far as gun control in our nation. You had the Texas Governor Greg Abbott state that Biden is threatening our Second Amendment rights. He just announced a new liberal power grab to take away our guns. We will not allow this in Texas. It is time to get legislation making Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state passed and to my desk for signing. So there, and this is kind of some other sentiments that you're going to hear from some governors saying that they are now going to treat their states as sanctuary states if Biden is going to do these things nationwide and trying to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. You had Alaska's Governor Mike Dunleavy state that these actions won't save lives or stop criminals, but they will disarm law-abiding citizens. Alaska is a Second Amendment sanctuary state, and we will be evaluating all our options. So again, you have a governor of a state saying that they are going to treat the state as a Second Amendment sanctuary because of what Biden is doing as far as gun control. You had Idaho's Governor Brad Little come out and state that Idaho will not stand for President Biden's unilateral actions to erode your Second Amendment rights. Idaho's congressional delegation and I are in lockstep in our opposition to President Biden's actions and his direction to Congress to strip law-abiding Americans of their constitutional right to keep and bear arms. Then you had Wyoming's Governor Mark Gordon come out and say that Wyoming has always been, and will continue to be a state where Second Amendment rights are recognized and protected. I oppose any orders or actions imposed from the federal level that infringe on this fundamental right. Today, I signed HB 236, which prohibits financial institutions and payment processors in Wyoming from discriminating against firearms businesses engaged in lawful commerce. So there he's saying we are not agreeing with what President Biden is doing as far as national gun control, but also they are taking actions as far as their state is concerned to deal with this issue of even private companies and businesses trying to infringe on Second Amendment rights by not doing business with companies or businesses that are engaged in Second Amendment related things. Idaho's Governor Kim Reynolds came out and did a discussion, and she said, well, I think it's out of control and it's obvious they can't get it through Congress, and so he's acting on his own. He's doing it at a rapid speed. There has not been another president, I don't think, in history that has implemented the number of executive orders that this president has implemented, and the hypocrisy of running on a uniter and a president that would bring both parties together and heal this country. He has done anything but that. He is continuing to divide the country, and he is doing it through these outlandish executive orders. So there she's talking about how his policies on gun control are going to divide the nation, and that's what you're seeing here through these various governors coming out and speaking out and various attorney generals coming out and speaking out. It is how divided Biden is making this nation based on his plans to pretty much infringe on our Second Amendment rights. And finally, you have the governor from South Dakota, Kristi Noem, who stated that Biden claims that his actions won't infringe on the Second Amendment. That's false. Taking away guns with red flag laws is an infringement. Placing new limits on firearms sales is an infringement. Curbing ammo purchases is an infringement. Shall not be infringed. And the reason why I ended with this quote is because I think in this instance, that's as simple as it is. Shall not be infringed. Biden came out and said that everything he's trying to do on his list is not an infringement of the Second Amendment. And even came out and said that no amendment is absolute, and that all of what he's doing is not infringement of the Second Amendment. But he knows that that's not correct, and we all know that that's not correct. He knows that there is not overwhelming support for what he's doing, so he's going to try to do some of these things unilaterally. But like a lot of these state governors said, and a lot of these state AGs said, they will not stand for what he's trying to do, and I know a lot of us will not stand for what he's trying to do. So one of the things that you guys can do is voice your opinions, share what Biden is doing around, share this video, other videos that you guys see about this issue, about the various gun control issues that are trying to get pushed right now. Also, one of the things you can do is always contact your local representatives, especially if you are a resident of any of these states. Reach out to these individuals, these governors, these AGs, and let them know that you support their stance in actually trying to fight against what Biden is trying to do as far as gun control. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below, and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you guys like this video and like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell, because that helps the channel analytics, helps to spread the word about the Second Amendment, and also spread the word about things like this that are going on in our nation to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. So as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.